I want to make a comment, but also I want to hear from you guys about this. I think one of the really big things that we tend to screw up or oversell as hackathon organizers is setting expectations. Like, your friend who's studying philosophy and has never seen a line of code, like, if you tell them they're going to make an awesome app at the hackathon, no, they're not. Like, they're not. And, okay, like 2% of them will, but 98% of them are going to be pissed and decide that it's too hard, right? Like, your friend who's like a sophomore in computer science and is like, knows some Java is going to make like a CRUD app that looks like reasonable, and they have a good chance of being proud of it. But we do this great thing of hyping hackathons as like it's going to be awesome, and it is for some people. But every time we misalign those expectations, we have more disappointed people, and we're spreading the word that like hackathons are not for beginners just because of the high failure rate. So I want to hear how you guys set expectations, and in general, what your approach to that is.
Okay, I know that one thing we do is on every flyer and on every piece of advertising, we include the numbers 1004, which is our introduction to Java class. That is our baseline. If you don't know how to program, you're going to have a really hard time. Now, there are some people that just skip the "Have you taken 1004?" part of the flyer and skip to "We'll teach you to build a web app," and those people come not knowing how to program. And so we do have a initiative that we call Learn to Program, which is something we do all year, which is if you don't know how to program, we're not going to be able to teach you, but we'll show you where the resources are where you can. And so we point people to resources we have on our website that can teach people to program. So it's sort of you set a clear baseline in all your advertising, and when then people come below it, you say, sorry, this probably isn't for you, but here's an amazing use of your time while you're at the hackathon.
Well, for Hack at Brown, we didn't just welcome coders, we also really encouraged designers from whether if you're from Brown or RISD from any other school. So I guess that kind of like counters what you were saying. We really encourage people from like all different like levels and backgrounds to all come. And what we really encouraged was for people to not just like stay in like me and Clara, like just two-person kind of team. We really wanted people to just mingle and like form teams of all different skill levels. So that way like you weren't just that one philosophy major like trying to do something by yourself. Because to be honest, like that's really not gonna happen. And I think like if you're like enveloped into a bigger group, you can build a really successful product and like be really excited about like doing a computer science class or like taking on like side projects or doing programming in the future. So yeah.
I guess what we did at Duke, one of the biggest things is we talked to students in person, right? So we went to classes individually, especially beginner classes, so like Comp Sci 101, Comp Sci 201, et cetera, and kind of made the focus not on winning prizes, but on learning stuff and doing stuff, whether they finish or not. And also the workshops, I think, really helped them understand that it's not really about winning, it's more so just about learning.
I guess my input here is, so what we did is kind of like different tracks. So what I did is I did let people in who hadn't taken basically almost any computer science, like a couple weeks of the intro-level CS course, and basically kind of put them in their own thing. So what I kind of did was like, put some like code up on the board and was like, hey, if you like know what this does, then like go to this like track, and if you know this, and there were kind of 3 levels people go through, and then you kind of mingle with people of that skill level, and then obviously with the pairing with the mentor would then like help that person along that specific track. And I think it kind of led to like, I think generally like in my experience, like when there are a lot of skill sets, sometimes it's like really intimidating. So the person who doesn't know anything ends up kind of doing the tasks of like getting food for the team and like doing like getting the team shirts when they like while they're hacking, etc. And I really wanted to make sure that there weren't teams that were formed that were like that, and they were definitely within their skill set.
So I was looking for some advice for someone who's like in the intermediate stage. So I'm like by no means an expert. I've taken like, I'm 1 credit away from finishing my major, but like there's a lot that I need to know, and like I want to know how to split up my time. So like for instance, I'm a TA and I spend time in office hours helping people. People come in like into the computer science lounge like while I'm there working on my own thing, and they also want advice, like they want help with their projects. So like how do you split up your time? Like if I'm at a hackathon and I want to help people, but I'm also like I also need to learn. There's so much that I don't know.
Yeah, this is a big problem that we run into, which is that all of the experienced people that are on our board are running around all the time trying to put out fires and help people. My opinion is that hackathons are not your time. Hackathons are their time. That's what we believe in, and our focus is not in getting the best people to build the best apps, because that might look good for our department to be able to say, look, our kids are so smart, they build these amazing things. I think it's more about them. That said, you can sort of cordon off time. So if you can find enough people that you can take rotations and say, like, okay, these people are in this area and we're not really telling all the newbies, if you have tons of questions, go to this table. You know, don't be in the CS Open area if you're saying newbies go here for help. If you're in that area for help, you should be helpful all the time. But if you want to take a break from that, have a separate space.
That being said, I think, so I guess what your question was kind of like how to split up time between helping and not helping. I think like one thing that I definitely struggle with myself is also like being able to say no. Like I know maybe this isn't the popular answer, but you know, like sometimes you just like need to like, you want to work on your project, you shouldn't sacrifice like your own experience. And I feel like I have trouble saying no. Like anyone asks for help and I'm like, they're already, right? And then my team is annoyed because I'm like not helping them, etc. So I think it's kind of like, you know, working and then when you kind of hit a dead spot, being like, okay, open for help and kind of making it on your time versus like their time. I know that kind of goes against what he was saying. But I do think like saying no is something that is important to be able to do.
Thanks.
So I have a quick comment and then a question. Dan, I love that you use Flask for intro to web development. Lately I've been like addict, and I've actually been working on some curriculum of my own for it. So that's really cool. I'm definitely gonna look at your stuff. And then also, this is a question maybe more for like the Penn Apps mentorship. You're talking about leveraging your network. So like in Austin, there's a lot of meetup groups, and I was thinking about starting to leverage out to them to get them coming in more as mentors. So does Penn Apps do that any, or are you more like network within like students and that?
Yeah, so meetups would be smart. So I mean, I did reach out to like a couple like Philly tech people, and a lot of them were like kind of busy where they wouldn't, like for me, I really wanted mentors who were gonna like be able to stay kind of for the entire thing. A lot of time, like the leaders of the community were like obviously tied down, some had families, etc. But that being said, like it really depends on what you're doing with your mentorship program, like whether, like what your vision for it is. And I definitely would say like those are great resources to go to. But in my case, I definitely did leverage, like I know a lot of people who did Hack and Y, and I was like a Hack and Y fellow. And like so I leveraged like a bunch of people there who I knew were like obviously really competent, but maybe like, and like going to Hackathon is kind of like, you know, seeing all the other Hack and Y fellows and pitched it like that. And knew that these students were really experienced, etc. So I did reach out to students and also alumni, but mostly personal network that way.
I'm gonna kind of pull a personal experience out. For me, when I was learning to code, I can think of very specific people that kind of held my hand in the beginning. I guess as mentors, when I started when I was 14, a lot of people around my age, a lot of my peers, and I think that's something we can do at hackathons. So I'm an old fart now. I'm a senior. So apparently I'm supposed to know things, and one of my goals for at least the remainder of like my eligibility in that, in MLH is to make sure I'm always trying to pair up with newbies and be that person that those people when I was younger were for them. So at MHacks, last hackathon I attended, I managed to get 3 new people to coding on my team, and we spent a lot of time running them through Flask and making sure that our final product had code that they developed, being not only a part of it and not just made for the sake of making it and running it through, but being an integral part of it. And I think we can do that from a cultural shift. It's more than just a branding and a message thing. I think we need to have a cultural shift towards like older hackers. You should hunt down new guys and pair with them. And I think we can create a lot of like really good documentation of how to be brutally honest, I'm a terrible mentor. I'm not great at it. And there's a lot of advice that people have that would be helpful for me to be that mentor. And so I'd love to see hackathons doing that forward in like matching services. Hey, I'm an old guy. I want to work with new guys. And so new guys know, these are people that are here for me. And that I think solves your scalability problem as well. Because right now I don't think the mentorship models that you guys have going are scalable. So just a comment.
Student mentors are the most powerful mentors. I think that when you have a really technical person, you need someone even more technical. But when you have a newbie, any amount of technical ability is fine. My first hackathon, a friend 2 years older than me, his name is Zach. He helped me with every question I had. I had no idea what I was doing. I had taken Python for 2 weeks, and I was trying to make an app in Flask, mashing together 2 APIs at HackNY. I was in way over my head, and he was always there for my questions, despite the fact he was also doing a hardware hack and having fun, but he was there for every single one of my questions, and that's why I came to more hackathons, and it's why I do what I do. Like, people are the people, yeah.
The first hackathon I went to, I briefly knew some Python, and I just went and joined a team of people who were doing some web stuff, and I learned a lot from that, but I was wondering, what do you think the benefits or trade-offs of matching beginners with teams who are already working on a project just to join along, do some small tasks, learn from them, versus having a group of people, beginners, and pairing them with a mentor?
Okay, I can speak in this a little bit, because I definitely was going through that also. I mean, it's kind of a twofold issue. One, sometimes you don't really have a choice, depending on the restrictions of the hackathon, maybe a lot of experienced teams who are kind of in it to win it won't really want to take on one, so it's actually pretty hard, unfortunately. And I think this requires some sort of cultural shift to encourage experienced teams who have frequently won tons of hackathons to take on a newbie. And I guess what I was mentioning before was I remember during a hackathon, if I was the most, I remember, so I worked with a team. I had 3 people who were experienced and 1 person. We took on a newbie, and ultimately he ended up feeling bad that he couldn't do enough, and then he would just kind of do everything in his power to do everything that wasn't the hacking. So he would every time food came out, he'd wait in line and get food for all of us and t-shirts, and I think that's obviously great, but not necessarily the most optimal experience for him. And I think there's something about the camaraderie of learning together. That being said, I think if more experienced teams are willing to take on newbies and kind of take the time to teach them stuff, that would probably be the most optimal.
Yeah, the way we solve this problem is that our hackathon, if you want to call it that, or DevFest is a week long, and we have a hackathon at the end that's 18 hours long. So for the whole week, all the beginner teams are learning, and we have mentors that are specifically designed for that, and the advanced teams are hacking. That said, at the hackathon, the mentors can build something at the hackathon because they've been helping for 6 days. If you have a 24-hour hackathon, you don't have time to do everything. If you have an entire week, you can make sure that the educational foundation is strong, so that during the actual hack period, because the people that are advanced don't really want to hack a whole week. It's really tiring. So they just hack at the hackathon, and then the newbies can learn throughout the week. Yes, the advanced people maybe will have a project they're working on all week, but by spending the time with the newbies during the beginning of the week, and you can get some time for yourself at the end of the week. I don't think pairing up different levels of teams is that productive. I agree.
At Hack at Brown, as Molly was saying, we're really looking to mentorship pairs. And so this is a question for Dan. You're talking about a lot of your mentors are students. How do you find these mentors? What do you look for? And how do you judge them to be people who will really help the newbies and not kind of give up on them in a way?
Yeah, it's about adding structure. If you say, hey, we're all going to sit in a room for 24 hours and you are a mentor, so make sure that you're helpful, that's not nearly as easy for people to do as to say, we're teaching this curriculum all week. It's been online for a month. Read it. Know it. When people have questions about it, be able to help people with it. That way, people can give constructive help as opposed to feeling like they're being tugged at all ears. We have people that sign up for TAs. It's our board, essentially, is we say, you're going to be TAs during the week, or people sign up. And we're happy to take experienced people from outside our board, but you find people that are committed and they're doing work for us all year. It's not like, hey, this week I'm doing this hackathon mentoring thing. No, you're a mentor at all of our events all for the entire year, and then during the actual hackathon, we say, this is exactly how you're going to help, and then it's a lot easier for people that aren't necessarily experienced in mentorship to be helpful.
I was wondering during the hackathon itself if it would be beneficial to have small, maybe themed events specifically for newbies and have internal competition in those events, or will it make them feel excluded?
One thing we did at HackDig is we had a track for newbies, and so if everyone on the team, I guess going back a little bit to the question about whether or not we should pair experience with inexperience, we definitely thought that it usually isn't good unless the experienced person is really intent on teaching the newbie. And so we had this newbie category of specific prizes where everybody on the team, it was their first time hackathon, where they were new to coding, they would be eligible for this separate categorical prize.
Our week is divided in two. We have, at we have from 8 to 10, we'd run a 2-hour workshop, and from 10 to 12, we have open hack time. So we purposefully divide people that want to learn and learn to build web apps, and then people that want to be hacking into 2 different spaces. And then for the second 2 hours, we join them together. So it's you can have the shared community space where people of all levels are learning, but you make sure to divide people so that you can be most productive in teaching. Because try giving a lecture in the middle of a room of people that are building their app, it's a really bad experience. We did try it. It didn't work out too well. But yeah, so dividing people spatially and then bringing them together to feel like they're all part of the same community. That's really important. You don't want to feel like you're attending a class and then go home. You're part of the hackathon. That's really important.
So I love that everyone's so focused on teaching newbies, and actually, like, it's a pretty selfless deed, because when you're teaching newbies, you're basically spending your time, and you're getting like the benefit of making seeing someone learn. But like you at USC, we have, when we're teaching workshops and teaching these newbies, it's like our core team. It's like my board that's doing it. So what happens when my board is gone? It's really hard to find people that are willing to actually spend time, like all of us here, to actually do that. So I just was wondering, like, how do you guys deal with it, or how did you guys get your core team like together?
Yeah, it's about, you're not saying, do you want to teach people, join ADI board. It's, we are a community of people that believe that education is important, and that our computer science department teaches a practical computer science theoretical curriculum, but doesn't teach people how to build what they want to build. If you want to help create that community, join ADI board. Obviously, you say it in more casual words, but it's about sending a message that this is a group of people that this is what we're about. It's not saying, hey, do you want to sign up and teach? We never say that. The people on ADI board inevitably want to teach because they are in the same atmosphere that we've created. It's about creating an atmosphere of people that want education to be at the forefront and community to be at the forefront, and then the teaching will come.
Okay, yeah, I guess going on what he said, I absolutely agree with that. And you'll see, like, I think this kind of goes back to what I mentioned when I talk about, like, leveraging your personal network. Like, I think something that's kind of important is that you kind of have a sense in your school generally, you know, like, who would be good at this. So, like, how there'll be the people who have like TA'd like 5 classes, or always like doing tech talks on their own, or, you know, always teaching people, and kind of, I think, like reaching out to them and saying like, hey, we want you to be a part of our board. We think you're great. We've seen what you've done, and kind of like appreciating like all that they've done so far is a great way to get people to join. Because I actually think like a common problem in tech is like people are constantly like undervaluing their skills and saying, you know, like, I don't really think I'm good enough. So if you tell them, I think you're good enough, a lot of times they'll jump on it and be like really down to help out.
I think we also talked a lot about student mentorship, but I think at our hackathon, like enlisting the help of our sponsors was really successful for us. So I actually went to the University Hacker Olympics last year in San Francisco, and I was working alongside like 2 engineers from Pinterest, and I just thought it was an amazing opportunity. And I think like having that kind of like mentorship and guidance from like established engineers is like something very valuable, and something that like I think if you tell companies that like they're able to make a personal impact on students, that really sells them on stuff, on your hackathon.
I wanted to add one more thing, which is that the way we actually get people to join our board is very natural and sort of slick. We every week we trick them. So first we say, we'll feed you cookies if you come hang out in this room. That's step one. So Cookies and Code is an event where people of all skill levels can come and feel like they're being productive. And you'll find that there are people that they'll sit in Cookies and Code and they'll work on their homework and they'll sit with their cliquey group of friends and then they'll leave. And that's fine. But you'll also find that there are people that say, hey guys, like I'm working on my homework tonight, but I'm really trying not to get anything done because I really don't want to do this. So, you know, feel free to ask me questions. Or people will say, oh, I have no idea what I'm doing with AngularJS. How do I do? And I say, I don't know Angular, but Brian does. And then Brian will begrudgingly say, okay, here's how you fix this problem. And then Brian gets more comfortable fixing AngularJS problems for people. And then he understands that he's actually improving people's lives. People come back to Cookies and Code. This happens. They come back and they say, oh man, Brian, like guess what I did last night? Like I built this thing, but now I'm having this other problem. He's like, okay, great. Like let me help you with that. It's very natural. If you put people in a room together and say that this is a space where you can ask questions and there are people of all experience levels, inevitably people will rise as people that are willing to help out. And those are people that you want on your board.
Sorry, 1 second. Oh.